La Pucelle Tactics shares a lot of similarities with Disgaea. However, there is one system that can be pretty daunting for new players, and that's item fusions. Unlike its predecessor, La Pucelle does not have the item world or innocence used to strengthen equipment. Instead, one of the ways to create powerful weapons is to fuse them, and that's what I'll be focusing on. So welcome to my La Pucelle item fusion guide. At first, this may seem like a complicated task, but it's actually quite simple once you get to know the process. The basic idea is that you will sacrifice a monster and at least one item in order to strengthen another item. Initially, this will cause the final product to be weaker, but it will have much greater hidden potential to take advantage of. In order to fully understand what this means, let's go over the nitty-gritty of how this whole process works. To fuse an item, we take a monster, equip at least 2 items, and turn it over to the cloaked man inside the Rosen Queen's shop. The order in which the items are equipped is crucial. The first item will always be the one being powered up. Any subsequent items will be absorbed. The fusion depends on a few things, but first, let's see what information the monsters and items have. There is the level, the raw stats, any elemental properties, and the stat leveler. Each one of these things is an attribute and will count as one thing that can be transferred over to the new fused weapon. For instance, this manly fist has an attack of 8, which counts as one attribute, a hit of 3, which counts as another, and an attack leveler of 1, which is another. So in total, this item has 3 attributes that can be transferred. The most important statistic, however, is the level, because without that, everything else is useless. Only as many attributes can be transferred as there are levels, so since this manly fist is higher than 3, all the stats will be transferable to the new item. If the level is lower than the total attributes, then the attributes will be absorbed from the top to the bottom. This means that the raw stats will take precedence, then the elemental properties, then the stat leveler. In the same example, if my manly fist is at level 1, it would only transfer the attack attribute to the new weapon, and the other 2 attributes, the hit and attack leveler, will be lost. The level of the item being strengthened will also determine the amount of attributes it can absorb, so its level should be as high as the total attributes being transferred from the fusion materials. For those who learn by example, like myself, let's take another hypothetical situation. I want to strengthen this Whip of Love with Raise Attack, Raise Int, and Raise Defense. Since each of the Raise items only has 2 attributes each, I want them to be at least level 2 to be able to transfer all the attributes. This means that my Whip of Love will have to be at least level 6 in order to absorb all attributes of the 3 items. If the Whip of Love is below level 6, it will absorb as many attributes as the level starting from the second item equipped down to the last. So, if my Whip of Love is at level 3, it will absorb the attack and attack leveler attributes of Raise Attack in my second slot, and the Int attribute of my Raise Int in my third slot, while ignoring the Int leveler attribute and the 4th item entirely. One thing to note is that sometimes a message will be displayed that says the item level is too low, but I've only seen this occur when one of the items is at level 0, so even though it may not display, do not assume that all the attributes are being transferred if the item levels are not correct. On the other hand, monster levels matter in a different way. The raw stats of a monster will determine the cap of the stats of the new item, so obviously, a higher level monster means higher stats, which leads to less of a chance an attribute being lower than its initial base value. To make this point a bit clearer, here is another example. I have a bat that has a raw attack of 19, and a weapon that has an attack of 108. When I perform the fusion, the weapon that comes out will have an even weaker attack than the base value, to the exact same number as the attack of the bat. This means that at best, the new items that are combined will never exceed the raw stats of the monster being sacrificed. If this situation were to arise, a warning will be given that states the monster is too weak. On the same note, the value for the attribute stats transferred will depend on the base stats of the item and not the final value. For instance, a level 22 Manly Fist will give the same attack increase as a level 3 Manly Fist, and will also be a percentage of that base value. So when creating the ultimate item, it's best to not waste time overleveling materials. With that last bit of information, that's pretty much all there is to know about item fusions. It's a lot to take in all at once, especially if this is your first time playing, but once you do a few practice runs, it should all come together and make sense. If you have any additional questions or need clarification on anything, feel free to leave a comment below and I'll do my best to answer it if I can. Until then, I hope you guys are enjoying the game and I'll see you next time.